Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Let's start. Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. It is wonderful to see you. And we're going to start the show tonight with something slightly different, but we are having a good look. Do excuse me, a bit of a hiccup there, getting the coffee down my neck very quickly. But there is a predicted landslide for Nigel Farage, of course, and we will have Paul Brooker with us a little bit later on. And we are going to be talking about the predicted landslide, what that means for the political map in the UK. But we are not going to start with that. We're going to start with something that, of course, has upset people left, right and centre, which, of course, is us telling the actual truth, the real actual truth about what goes on. Now, very simply, what we are going to do before we go there is we are going to show you a little something that took our breath away, and it would take your breath away as well, I would think. This is Rachel Reeves, who went on a show and literally turned around and said that a reason for she has no choices but to raise taxes in the budget due to the financial damage caused by Margaret Thatcher's mining strike. There we go. Apparently, the reason why we're in a hellhole and why we're doing so badly as an economy is because of Margaret Thatcher and her policies from all those years ago. Barry Evans.
Look. You can get the audio on. I tell you, these people are just getting more and more and more crazy. I mean, how could that happen? I mean, all Maggie Thatcher did was stand up to the miners, and the miners fell into the trap.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, the thing is, when you've got, I mean, Arthur Scargill probably did quite a lot for the miners.
We can't hear you, Barry. You need to speak up.
Arthur Scargill probably did quite a lot for the miners, but he also did quite a lot that the miners did not benefit from.
Yeah.
And one of them was taking on Maggie Thatcher.
Yes.
You know, and because she was a leader. I mean, this woman from accounts, she's nothing like a leader. She's a follower. But she follows the idiots.
We will get into that in a short while because we're going to start with something else. But we're going to hear from Nillis and Sean Murphy first. Nillis?
Well, she's partly right because we had 1,000 years worth of coal energy left. And we had the technology for that coal to be burnt at power stations very cleanly. The thing is, the Labour and the Conservative Party, because of their climate policies concerning carbon dioxide, they would have banned coal anyway.
Exactly. And, so it's not down to Thatcher. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. It's a good point. We'll come back to it a little later on in the show. Sean Murphy.
Well, I don't think Rachel Reeves was very politically astute during the reign of Margaret Thatcher. I should imagine she was probably in junior school at the time.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. It is amazing. But you always get this with politicians. They'll blame anyone but themselves.
Absolutely.
They're never accountable for anything. There is something we do need to visit. And we need to revisit this because we're getting a fair bit of tap, shall we say, on X for actually having, shall we say, a thought on this. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ukraine and the problem that we have with it. And of course, as you can see from this map here, now Russia tend to control most of this. If you can see the cursor, most of the eastern side of the Ukraine, of eastern Ukraine. And of course, there's Crimea down the bottom there. There's Odessa here, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk. Just to let you know, by the way, we will be getting into this a little bit more, but the Russians have now crossed over the Dnieper River and are starting to look at the outskirts of Kherson. Whether they stay there, that's another matter. But to let you know that has happened. And up here, of course, in Donetsk is where all the real action is. And of course, further up here in Kupiansk. Now, why are we going to talk about this? Well, we're going to talk about this because we've made a statement on X that seems to have lit a bit of a bonfire under people. And we're going to be very, very straightforward. So here we go. And we also need to put together some stuff that shows you that there is a lot of myths and a lot of nonsense out there. So in 2022, Ukraine's army stood with reservists at 2.2 million. They had a mobilization of 1.4 million. The TCC, press gangs and mercs added another 400,000. Now, 2025, by then, they've had 4 million men go into the army. There are 2 million dead. There are 700,000 injured, 250,000 deserted, which the Ukrainians have turned around and said is absolutely correct, 100,000 in captivity. That left around 950,000 as of January the 1st. And that was literally printed out by the Ukrainian army at the time. They are now mobilizing over 60s. All that is left is the destruction of Ukraine. The cavalry are not coming. America are not coming. Neither are the UK, neither are France, nor are the Germans. Ukraine were and always have been a distraction. In that time, America have overthrown Syria, Nepal, and attempted regime change in Iran. The brutal reality, I'm afraid, is America do not and never did care about Ukraine, and neither do the rest of Europe. Flags in the bio, Slava Ukraine, wow, that's helpful. Still, the propaganda persists. Still, you hang on every speech by NATO or Donald Trump. You still wait for this week's new wonder weapon, whatever that may be. America played Ukraine, and NATO and the European are subservient to America. Ukraine were losing soldiers at around a rate of 10 to 1 in 2023. In 2024, it was around 16 to 1. And in 2025, it is 20 to 1 and upwards. As we previously stated, they lose on average around 1,500 soldiers a day. Now, people will say that's impossible. It is not. There is a 1,000-kilometer front line. That means Ukraine are losing 1.5 men for every kilometer area that is under attack. As we previously stated, and as we stated, we have stated August 2026 when we reach a crucial tipping point. The saddest thing is there will still be people sending decent Ukrainian people to the front line to be slaughtered, probably from the countries they have fled to get away from this war. Don't be surprised if you see repatriations. We don't support Russia or Ukraine. We don't support Israel or Palestine. We just tell it as it is here at WarrenThornton.com. You may not like it. You may disagree with it, but we will give you, without fear or favor, the brutal truth of everything that is going on. So that was the statement we made. So what backs it up? Well, on the 1st of January, of course, we had this. The Air Force personnel was 165,000, and it was grabbing those people, throwing them into the army because, of course, they don't need the Air Force anymore because they don't really have much of one. The Army personnel was 550,000, and the Navy personnel 160,000. Well, they don't need them, so they put them into the army. Now, they turn around and put these crazy figures forward. Mobilization 6 to 12 months. Mobilization year 2, year 3, year 4 was all pie in the sky. It just basically didn't happen. They said there would be a yearly mobilization potential of 1.2 million. In the end, over all this time, there's only been a mobilization of 1.4 million. Then there's been people beaten up and thrown on the front line. So hopefully that clears that up, that they've got around 950,000 men left as of the 1st of the month. Now, let's get into this. we have this very simple. This was by Media's owner. We've shown this before, but it's worth showing it again. As you can see here, in the entire VDV for the entire SMO, this also points to an absolutely brutal fact. For every Russian soldier killed in this war, somewhere between 7 and 13 Ukrainian soldiers die. That's apocalyptic for the Ukrainian army and a disgrace for their Western advisors. This also, by the way, aligns perfectly with the Ukraine MOD's claim for Russian casualties. This suggests strongly that Ukrainians' MOD's infamously implausible running count of Russian losses is astonishingly actually an accurate report of their own losses. Now, that was in 2023. Okay, 7 to 8, anywhere between 7 and 13. It was actually worked out at about 10 to 1. So if you do the math on that with the amount that they lose every day, then you'll be able to see very simply that everything that we've been saying it matches up in terms of the figures. And of course, people are saying, oh, this is not true. Well, this is the repatriated bodies. And of course, you will excuse that, but Russia call this the Second World War between Russia and Ukraine. As you can see, in 2023, the Ukrainians were having some success. Russian bodies returned, Ukrainian bodies returned. And as you can see, as we creep into 2024, round about here, we started to get a problem. And then, of course, as we get into 2024, it becomes huge. It becomes 10 to 1, 15 to 1, and well over 20 to 1 by the time you get to June of 2025. And of course, we're now in October. So by calculations, the Ukrainians only have around 700,000 actual men left. And of course, as I say, they are chucking people on. Now, you will hear a lot of nonsense, a heck of a lot of nonsense that is coming out about lots of people going, Grok, is this correct? So let's just take you through something here. When you go to Grok, you can do this right now. You can go onto X, type in Grok, are the WarrenThornton.com figures correct? And they will say they are false. And they will turn around and tell you that they're literally the Ministry of Defence in the UK, OSINT, which of course has nothing to do with Russia in reality, OSINT, the CSIS, which is an American think tank, and the Institute for the Study of War, the ISW, are their sources. Now, the Institute for the Study of War is run by the Kagan family, or rather, should we say, the sister-in-law of Victoria Nuland of the National Endowment for Democracy, CIA. So that is the sources when you go and ask Grok. You are not going to get reliable sources from these people because they obviously have a vested interest in what is happening in the war. So our figures are correct. We know that they're right because we have people on both sides and also in the Red Cross and various other areas that are telling us exactly what's going on. If we are wrong, and we are not, then the guys who have been doing this for 30 years and getting it right in all other conflicts have got this horribly wrong. And we know that they haven't. And the second thing I will say about this as well, if we are supposedly wrong, which we are not, as I reiterate once again, then very, very simply, why are you mobilizing 60-year-olds? Nilus.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, that both the MI6 and the CIA are getting their figures directly off the Ukrainians, and that's what they're taking as granted. And anyway, if you put on YouTubes or TikToks or anything like that, we know the Russian economy is about to fail, the Russian army is failing, and Ukraine is going to have their victory, isn't it? So, if you and as you say, and other people say, there's always a bridge I can tell you. Yeah.
It is, yeah. We've got a bridge we can sell you, because it is absolutely true. And of course, we take no great pleasure in this, saying that people are going to tell you that Russia are winning, and if you that Ukraine are winning, and if you're one of those that are doing that, you're as mad as the people that are doing this. And literally, there is no one coming to save you. If when it comes to Ukrainians, The Ukrainians are being sacrificed as a distraction. Now, that sounds horrible, but it is absolutely true. There are no American boots on the ground. 3 years Ukrainians have been dying, supposedly to save their land. And they're saying, oh, you know, people, places like Crimea are Ukrainian. No, they're not. The Russians are sitting on it. So it's not Ukrainian, is it? You're talking absolute nonsense. And we get all these wonder weapons and the propaganda and the trolls that come on social media and everything else. Not one of them will change the fact that perfectly good Ukrainians are being beaten up and thrown onto the front line, and they are ending up in mass graves like this. Now, we've actually taken you on a tour around the mass graves. We've shown you the burning of the bodies in the ovens, and we've shown you the holes that they're digging out in the middle of nowhere and throwing the bodies in, so that they try to keep the numbers down. And of course, if they're not looked after in terms of people being able to see them, then we have a major problem, don't we? Because of course they can't claim the $380,000 that they are owed for their loved ones falling. So Ukraine have deferred that for another 2 to 3 years. And of course, we've got the Finnish parliament coming out and saying that, of course, and Poland, we've had Sikorski come out and say that Ukraine, we need to make sure Ukraine can fight for another 3 years. Do you mind telling me how the hell that's going to happen? Nilis.
Well, basically, if you live in a democracy, the duty of the government is to inform the people with truth, and we're not doing that. You know, for me, if I want to know something, I've either got to go to alternative media such as you, Warren,
Yes.
or sometimes I go to RT, which is I find quite truthful. And but how can you have but many people are deluded by the mass media, and how can you have a proper democratic election when people are being lied to and filled with these lies and lies that they believe when they go to the ballot box? It's just seem to be, yes, it's, and as you said, it's not only in the UK, it's throughout Europe, and throughout the Western world.
So let's get into a little bit of that then, because this is the thing that is really beginning to annoy everybody, I think. And of course, you get it all over the place. This is always a problem. We've had a Garand drone and a couple of other drones actually be bought to the UK, would you believe, to try and convince everybody that the Russians are going to be a threat to the rest of Europe. This is solely to pump up the money. Now, where is this money coming from? We've just heard about Rachel Reeves having to put taxes up and everything else. Well, let me tell you this. What we've also got, and what we've got a major problem with, is the fact that, of course, they're going to put up pensions. UK is now being told that they're going to be, the pension age is going to be put up to 68, maybe even 69. In Germany, they're going to put it up to 73. And elsewhere in France, they're deferring talk about it because Le Cornu, of course, can't even get the measures through the parliament for the budget in the French parliament. They won't even let that budget go through. So they're deferring talk about the pensions there. But very simply, what they're doing is they're raising the pension age so you are paying for this war. It's that simple. Because, of course, the EU budget or the NATO budget is up to 5% with everybody. And, of course, they've got to find a way of funding this war in Ukraine because everybody is broke. And it's a really, really simple explanation. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to sit there and you're going to go, oh, there's nothing wrong. Everything's okay. This is that and the other. It really isn't. It really isn't. And we are paying for this through the nose, and you are paying for it too. Now, of course, this is Sikorski, who's turned around and said that this fight needs to go on for another 3 years. So they're going to have to rob even more money. And of course, we know how corrupt the Zelensky regime is. Everybody's getting their whack. And of course, if you have taken any notice of Pete Hegseth, who turned up to have a word today with NATO, would you believe? And of course, everybody was very, very happy to see him. And this is what he said.
It's great to see you. Great to see you. Absolutely. Great to be here. And Mark mentioned it. Firepower. That's what is coming, we expect and is coming from NATO. And it was a historic summit just a couple of months ago, brought about by leadership of President Trump to say we need our allies to step up. And they did, and they have in those commitments. Now those commitments will soon translate into capabilities, which is the most important aspect of it. And one part of that, of course, is Pearl, is the initiative where European countries buy U.S. weapons transferred to NATO for the fight in Ukraine to bring peace to that conflict. And if there's anything we've learned under President Trump, is the active application of peace through strength. You get peace when you are strong, not when you use strong words or wag your finger. You get it when you have strong and real capabilities that adversaries respect. And I believe that's what NATO is doing. I believe that's what the Pearl Initiative is. So our expectation today is that more countries donate even more, that they purchase even more to provide for Ukraine to bring that conflict to a peaceful conclusion. I would also note a historic moment as well for a lot of things to happen, given what the president's been able to do in Gaza and throughout the Middle East. I think the world is seeing that we have a peace president who seeks that peace through standing by those that stand with the United States and stand for peace, which is what we saw there, and I hope we can see in Ukraine. So that's the focus of our efforts. We're going to be strong to bring that about, and thanks for having us.
Peace through strength. We've heard that before, isn't it? It's do as we tell you, otherwise we'll drop bombs on you. By the way, your old folks, if you wouldn't mind them freezing, just so we can have more money for our US military industrial complex. Tar very much. Barry Evans first.
I mean, it's just another load of absolute tosh. How can you win a war? You know, I mean, they can't win the war anyway. So they're not in a position of strength. They will not be in a position of strength against the Russians because their weapons are inferior. Their army is inferior. Everything about, well, it's all talk. Exactly like you say. You do as we say, or we'll drop bombs on you. The Russians don't do that. They say, okay, if you want to fight, we'll fight you, but we're going to look after the civilians. As I've said before, if it was the UK, Europe, and the Americans fighting Ukraine, it would be like Gaza. It'd be a total wreck. The Russians, yes, they've wrecked some of the, some of the things. Some of the other cities have been pretty, leveled or had a lot of damage. But the Russians, like Mariupol, have gone in and rebuilt it. And rebuilt it better than it was before. So everyone says how bad the Russians are, and yet the Ukrainians want to bomb all the stuff the Russians have done to make things better in these places. They're carrying on trying to bomb them. I mean, we don't hear these things, and the Americans are controlling a lot of this stuff, and yet their weapons are not as good as they're not as good as the Chinese, and they're certainly not as good as the Russians.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Nicholas.
Well, it reminds me of 1984, the book by George Orwell, where you had a National Peace Through Strengths Week every year.
It's always nice to have a bit of news speak, isn't it? Eric Jones.
We've got that as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
Personally, if I were Putin, if they launched anything stupid towards Moscow, I would take NATO headquarters off the map.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, eventually, what's going to happen? So here's what's going to happen. Very simply, Tomahawks are only going to be given to Ukraine in limited use when they are given. We're not at that point yet. Friday, they're going to have a chat about that. And then it will be limited strikes to areas inside Ukraine, not inside Russia. Certainly won't be to launch at Moscow or anything like that, because there are many, many years of this war still to go. The Americans do not want this to get out of hand. So there's going to be limited exactly how much damage you are allowed to do if you're Ukraine. In the meantime, keep fighting, keep dying. Europe keep buying the weapons. We'll keep getting the money. We'll keep giving them the weapons. And of course, more and more people will go without because, of course, Europe is totally subservient. Now, let's get it. Sorry, Eric, go on.
Who else? Well, I'm sorry, but who else is producing missiles right now besides us and providing them to them? Anybody?
The Germans, the
This
good
time.
old Germans. They're producing some Taurus missiles, which they're then
Sure.
trying to pass off as totally different, some sort of missile. And of course,
Thank
they're pretty ineffective. Now, here's the thing about the Tomahawks: the Russians are extremely, and I'm getting this from their people, confident of taking these down. So it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. What it does do, just lifts it up, another escalation, keeps Europe in the game, keeps them ploughing money in, keeps the Ukrainians fighting until, of course, there's nobody left. When they said the last Ukrainian, they actually mean it. Let's have a little look at some of the things that are actually going on the battlefield at the moment. And people turn around, I'm just going to stop this for a second. People turn around and go, why don't you show the Russians dying? Well, we have shown that. We have shown that before. But the pertinent point is here that the Ukrainians are dying in vastly greater numbers than the Russians. I show 1 or 2 Russians dying. Yeah, we are talking 1,500 Ukrainians every single day being slaughtered on the battlefield. I don't want to see 1,500 Ukrainians slaughtered on the battlefield as somebody who's been in combat. It is horrible, horrible to see that is happening. Let's have a little look at some of these images. As you can see here, this is Russian strikes. Now, drones are absolutely terrible because they literally, it is targeted artillery that literally goes straight for you. Now, very, very simply, if it were Russians dying at a rate of 25 to 1, they were losing 1,500 men a day, then we'd be showing the Russians dying in great numbers and wondering what the hell was going on to such a large country that it couldn't look after itself. And all this nonsense you're going to hear from people about, Russia aren't going anywhere. They don't need to. The Ukrainians are coming to them. This is what people do not understand. As long as Ukraine keeps throwing men into the front line, the Russians can just keep mopping them up. Why would you risk going forward and getting your men killed when you're literally, as I always say, if we get an enemy, for God's sake, if they're making a mistake, don't interrupt them. And they've been doing this for the last 3 years. Okay, last 3 years they've been literally as bad as this, and this has been happening. Mark Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Warren, how much do the drones actually cost? I mean, in comparison to the things that they're blowing up.
In basically, let's put it this way: it costs anywhere between 2,500 to 5,000 for a decent drone. Okay, the grand drones are more expensive, but these fairly normal drones, they can disable a tank, of course, from very, very, at very, very low cost. The tank, you look at the Challengers, that was a game changer, wasn't it? That got blown up. There are many, many things. The Bradleys were going to be a game changer. They got blown up. The cost is astronomical compared to the cost of the drone. You are talking with a tank in the millions, and of course, when you look at how much the drones cost, this is why it's costing so much money. This is another reason, Mark.
How much is it? How much is one of their rockets, or with the surface to ground air missiles?
Which ones? The Russians or the Americans?
The Americans.
The Americans. If you have a Patriot missile, that's $3.5 million. One missile.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Russians can make them a lot cheaper. But here's the thing. When people go, why aren't Russia moving forward? Russia are moving at the pace of their economy. Okay? And everybody misses this point. Russia are not plowing, everything into the military-industrial complex, getting massively in debt. Their GDP is high. And inflation went up, so they had to drop the interest. They had to raise the interest rates to drop the inflation. Their economy is booming, and of course, people go, "Oh no, it's not. It's complete nonsense." Okay, but they are moving at a pace that matches their financial abilities as well. They're not overstretching themselves at any point. Their GDP is still around 3.5 to 4. Okay, they've actually got to stop the growth because it's pushing. It's obviously pushing inflation up because the Russians have more money to go out and buy things. And of course, they are only using 6% of their GDP. When you consider that you've got 30 odd countries being asked for 2.5% of their GDP, okay, which sometimes in smaller countries, that's not a lot. Germany, Britain, France, America, certainly. And America, of course, bear the brunt of most of it. And they're asking you to go without now so that they can produce the weapons, Mark.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It is absolutely stupid. And of course,
in a war that's nothing to do with the UK or well, Europe, should I say? I mean, all it is money. Somebody's making a lot of money out of these weapons.
Oh, they're making an absolute fortune. They're making an absolute fortune. Let's before we hear from Nilis, let's hear from Ukraine's chief of staff, shall we? The ex-chief of staff for Ukraine.
Я вважаю, що пан президент України може не зовсім розуміти всю фатальність ситуації в Збройних силах України. Проблема зараз при нинішньому, знову ж таки, при нинішній політиці Збройних сил України, проблема посадити якихось європейців на командних пунктах, тому що вони, виходить, будуть знати правду по лінії фронту, а це ж не можна. А якщо ми кажемо про втрати особового складу, чи ефективний командир, який там зачистив по наказу головнокомандуюча якийсь населений пункт, який ми віддамо через тиждень, але поклав там 600 або 800 людей. Цей командир ефективний? Ну, на думку головнокомандуюча, це ефективний командир. От. Тому, ну, абсолютно щось нереальне.
Тобто проблема брехня, улюбленці?
Та проблема в брехні самому собі.
So he's talking there about individual commanders losing 600 to 800 men in a week. Do you know how many commanders there are on the battlefront? Nilis.
Well, sorry, I was listening to that. I've forgotten what I was going to say, actually.
Okay, not to worry. Jump back off and come back on when you can remember. So first of all, we have that from Zelensky's former chief of staff. And of course, we've got this, the Ukrainian bridge. Let's have a little look. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have a look at the bridge strike first. Now, this is not Pokrovsk. This is outside a place called Pokrovska. I'll let you back in a minute, Nilis. This is a bridge being blown up by the... Now let's have a look at it from the Ukrainian vantage point of the bridge strike.
Летіли там на зорі, хмари били вітром думки мої, моє чисте небо, дикий мій край, душа летіла, душа бай-бай. Ворони летіли там на зорі, хмари били вітром думки мої, моє чисте небо, дикий мій край, душа летіла, душа бай.
Braver man than me, you wouldn't find me on the front of that bridge. Nilis.
Well, what I was going to say, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, he said it's all a money laundering exercise.
Of course it is.
And
yeah.
Ukraine, it's all to put money from the hands of the people into the hands of the elites. And this is what we saw in COVID. This is what we see with the green energy. And this is what we see with the forever wars. The Ukrainian war is special, I think, because they're just trying to cull the population. Ukraine was 85% Christian. And wherever NATO goes, they try to kill destroy the Christian populations. We can see this very clearly in places like Iraq, Libya. Had small Christian populations. And now in Syria, where the Islamic State are quite...
Yeah, I don't want to get too far off track. Yep.
Right. Anyway, are quite openly Christians all the time.
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
day.
So what we're talking about there with that bridge, getting back to the bridge, the reason they smashed the bridge was not to stop the Ukrainians advancing. It was to keep the Ukrainians where they are. That's a chilling idea, isn't it? And the Ukrainians, once again, with their battlefield commanders and everything else, we've shown you how Pokrovsk looked very much, very much like what happened in Avdiivka, what happened in Bakhmut on the outskirts of Bakhmut when they were around there. And of course, the Russians are creeping further and further into Pokrovsk. And what they always do is they leave one little area open so you can keep funneling men in there. And of course, as long as the Ukrainians keep going, oh, and everybody's like, come on, cheer the Ukrainians on, give them weapons. I'm telling you now, there is about to be a package announcement tomorrow from Whitaker, who is, of course, the US's, shall we say, top boy in NATO. He's going to announce a package of more Ukrainian, shall we say, lots of weapons to Ukraine tomorrow. And then, of course, we've got Zelensky meeting with Trump in the White House on Friday. It's going to be more empty promises, more dangling of the carrot. And, of course, more Ukrainians are going to die over and over again for no good reason, apart from the American reason, of course, which is to keep people fighting for as long as they can. And I'm going to just get into this a little bit as well. This is Kupiansk now. Okay, we told you that they were going to take over the left-hand side. This is where they are currently fighting. That pocket of men there, 1,244 men, I am reliably now informed, that are completely cut off. And not only that, the Russians are now coming down this side as well. This area here, of course, is where the new fighting is going. They can't swim across the Dnieper River. They can't get out through the railway line there. They cannot get out through this road. It has now been completely cut off. The only road out is this road out, and it takes you straight into the arms of the Russians. And of course, they've got drone firepower. We've shown you the drones along the road taking out Colombian Mercs, for instance, on my X post earlier on. And of course, this is, as we said, these people, these soldiers are in Kupiansk at the moment on the left-hand bank. Somewhere around 1,200 of them are now in serious danger of being completely wiped out. There are another 2,000 that are fighting here, and they don't want to retreat, because if they do retreat, there is no help whatsoever for the soldiers on the left-hand side of the bank. But it's coming to the point where they are literally cut off in this cauldron, and that's going to get worse. And it gets even worse. At a place called Udachny, of course, the coal mine here has been taken over. The Russians have almost cleared that out. And when they do, this highway is one of the main highways between Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk. This is called the E50 highway, and this highway will be under Russian control as far as the eye can see, which is not going to be good for them at all. And of course, once they sort of get into Dnipropetrovsk and everywhere else, we've also got to consider what is going on now. For the first time in a long time, the Russians have gone across the Dnieper River and are now in this area here, which is somewhat of an island. Now, the reason they haven't done it before, it's a bit of a bottleneck, but they believe that the Ukrainians, they may be wrong, we don't know yet, but they believe, the Russians obviously believe, that they can make incursions into this area because the Ukrainians are so weak in firepower in Kherson, been taken men to go to Pokrovsk, to go to Kupiansk, that they now can make this attack there. Now, that might not happen, but very simply, what they're going to do is they're going to keep probing in certain areas till they find a weakness. You get that bubble, that bulge, and then, of course, they strike. Louis Bastos.
Good morning, Warren. Good evening, everyone.
Hello,
just a question, how many Ukrainians have surrendered to the Russians? And how many Ukrainians are fighting on the Russian side? Do you know?
Yeah, well, we know how many have surrendered. We don't have the full figures of how many are fighting on the Russian side, because obviously they try and keep that as quiet as possible, because, and the simple reason they keep it as quiet as possible is the simple fact that there will be reprisals if they've got relatives, obviously, if they've got relatives still in Ukraine, there's going to be reprisals. But we know that over 250,000 have deserted, and that there are over 200,000 surrendered. Now, many of those have gone back, been transferred back, which I find quite crazy. But there is 100,000 in captivity. So the figures are not quite adding up there. I think what has happened where the others have been surrendered, some of them have been let go. I know of at least 50 that have made their way to Hungary. Once the Russians have turned around and said, we're going to repatriate you, they've just said, let us go to Hungary. So there's been a secret deal under the table for that. So that might be happening more and more and more. And I suspect it possibly is. And that's why Ukraine are so actually angry with the Hungarians rather than anything else. But do not be surprised, Louis, do not be surprised if when it gets to a disaster thing, which I believe it will in August 2026, don't be surprised if they start repatriating from Europe those who have escaped the fighting, if they don't start sending them back to Ukraine.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're
Thanks for the answer.
You're welcome. Let's get into this, because this, I mean, hopefully now you have an idea of what's going on the front line, and of course how bad it gets. It's not going to get any better. It really isn't. Something I do want to address, and of course we have the online presence of the lunatics who keep pushing the fact that Russia are losing or anything else. This was probably one of the best tweets of the lot. The international symbol for you're about to read a really stupid tweet. The people with the Ukraine flags in their bios and everything else, they're just literally, if you listen to them, you need to be, I have a bridge to sell you, because they are absolutely not there whatsoever. They're not at the races, bless them, and they don't have the first idea, or they've been paid should we say they've been paid to try and carry that out? Now, we can't say that, can we, without backing it up? When we say they've been paid, or they're, we say they're brain dead, but to say they're paid is awful, is it? Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a little look at this. Here we go. Have a little look at this.
Привіт, мене звуть Олеся. Я розповім свою історію англійською мовою. Hey guys, my name is Olesya, and I'm a former employee of the so-called Troll Fabric in Kiev, Ukraine. And today I want to tell you something about this structure and some reasons why I have left this job. I might be wrong, but I think it's the first time somebody published insider materials on this topic since 2019, when a journalist infiltrated the office in Kiev to make a report about it. And back then I did realize that it was a troll fabric, but I told myself it's okay, because I always supported President Zelensky, and I still do. And yes, at first the job was focused on supporting President Zelensky online, like writing positive comments or posts, etc. So we were mostly working on Facebook and Instagram. As the time has passed, I was transferred from the Ukrainian department, which worked for Ukrainian audience, to the English-speaking department, which were focused on the English-speaking public, like Americans and Europeans. But the topics remained the same: support for President Zelensky, support for Ukraine, and Ukrainian war effort. We also had French, German, and Italian departments. I actually heard some other offices in Kiev were hiring people who spoke Finnish and also Swedish and Estonian. About a half year ago, our main chef in command, Andrei Borisovich Yermak, paid us a visit. I am pretty sure you have heard of the head of President Zelensky office. Really, it was an unusual event for the main figure behind our project to come visit the office. So he came with some English-speaking officials who were introduced to us as the American partners. We were told that they were very important guests, but no further details. Some of my colleagues told me that they were probably CIA. During the visit, they said that our field of work is expanding, and we were told that our new target was the United States of America, especially the upcoming elections. Long story short, we were asked to do everything to prevent Donald Trump from winning the elections. So basically, this topic was added to our main lines of work. Since then, each of us had to post at least 3 or 5 posts daily, posing as the Americans and the Europeans, and criticizing Donald Trump and praising Biden. The Americans have even organized a few lectures for us to get a better understanding of American politics and American mindset and main social and politics issues. Then we were occupied with the topics for the job, which sounded like this. Unlike Trump, Biden is a smart and experienced politician. Unlike Trump, Biden will never betray NATO partners. Trump will alienate our partners. Also, Biden will not abandon Ukraine, and Biden will protect democracy while Trump is Putin's puppet. I honestly tried to convince myself it's okay, since Biden is a clearly better option for Ukraine. But, it was too much for me. Some of my colleagues felt really nervous too. One thing is to work for the best interests of my country, but interfering in US politics is a whole other thing.
So there you can see little groups. And of course, that happens, shall we say, on all sorts of posts on X and everywhere else. So just in case you didn't know that that was going on, that absolutely is going on, absolutely everywhere, all over X. And we actually have, we've been contacted by an X insider after we put the post up about channels being attacked. They've had over, so we now have the full figures, 754 accounts have been taken off of X because of these postings by the NATO, or should we say the disinformation campaigns of Ukraine to try and make sure that the truth doesn't get out there to you. And of course, there have been 58,000 literally complaints about NATO to X. They have only taken down 177 accounts. And on average, this is just on average, we are being told by our ex-insider that these NATO bots, or these Ukrainian bots as they call them, on the internet literally report over 1,000 accounts every single day. So it's not just ours, it's many others that are copying for this as well. And when we get, we showed you the international symbol for the stupidest tweet of the day. The stupidest tweet of the day probably has to go to this man, who I very much used to admire. He is, of course, Ukrainian. His name is, or Armenian, I should say, I believe. I'm not certain on that, so don't quote me. By Garry Kasparov, the former world chess champion. Ukraine has won the European Chess Team Championships. They had several chess clubs bombed by Russia. Their top scorer, Igor Kovalenko, is a frontline soldier. He's not actually on the front line when he was playing chess. That would be a bit difficult. And of course, he has put that out as a tweet. Well, he's put that out, but he's failed to tell you that they're not allowed, Russia are not allowed to take part in that competition. So, of course, Ukraine was always going to win it. As, should we say, there are some bloody good chess players in Ukraine. But of course, the fact that they weren't allowed to play should tell you everything you need to know. So let's get on to the last little knockings then when it comes to these areas and everything else. What we are going to talk to you about is very, very simply this. Ukraine's children's education. Have a look at this.
Якщо ми говоримо про загальну рекрутингову систему в державі як таку, вона має починатися з школи. Захист України, предмет, який був введений, і інструктори бригади Азов долучені до цього процесу просто максимально. Від навчання самих дітей до навчання тих викладачів, які будуть вчити дітей. З цього має починатися, власне, сам рекрутинг. Але якщо в Ізраїлі ця підготовка починається 6-7 класу, то в нас вона починається вже набагато пізніше. Я вважаю, що немає нічого поганого, якщо на уроках з трудового навчання діти могли б клепати FPV-дрони замість того, щоб робити якісь, я не знаю, годівнички для пташок. Ну, типу, як на мене, є певні недопрацювання в освіті, коли будь-який предмет фактично ми можемо підвести під якусь військову дисципліну. Тобто вивчати на алгебрі, геометрії балістику або артилерійську справу, підводячи до цього, ми можемо. Ми маємо розуміти, що...
So just to be clear here, we're talking about the Azov battalion, and we all know about them, don't we? Want taught in schools to make drones instead of bird feeders for young children, and to learn about artillery rather than geometry. Is that quite staggering? If that disturbs you, it certainly disturbs me, and it seems very, very strange, doesn't it? And of course, we've got a video to show you from the front that we can't show you at the moment. We will show you when we go on to warrenthornton.com, and at the end of that, for the simple fact of the, shall we say, the video is really, really bad. Now, people say, I don't criticize Vladimir Putin. Well, I'm going to now. Al-Jilani has been in Moscow for a meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now, me personally, I wouldn't have Al-Jilani anywhere near. That's a bit like letting a fox in the hen house, as far as I'm concerned. This guy will literally be in power, and he will do exactly what his masters say. And his masters, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know about anybody else, are Israel and the United States of America. And of course, we all know where eventually that leads, and it always does. Something else that you should know while we're talking about this sort of subject is the amount of nonsense that is going on with poor old Maloney. She was at the peace summit. There she is having a cigarette, as only Maloney can do. I'm still sort of on the fence with Maloney, but she very much is good friends with Trump. She seems to like Elon Musk quite a bit. But her facial expressions are absolutely fantastic. And of course, this is as Keir Starmer is about to approach her. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, so I thought I would share it with you. And of course, Maloney is one of those people who doesn't suffer fools too gladly. She's certainly not a fan of Zelensky, certainly not a fan of Macron, certainly not a fan of Keir Starmer. And I suppose that is going to bring us on to the fact of Keir Starmer. Now, what I am going to do very, very quickly here is I'm going to show you this. This is a gentleman I'm going to show you that I think you should follow. His name is Scott from Calibrated, and he does Ukraine maps. I'm just going to show you a minute or two of his.
Hey everybody, this is the October 13th Calibrated Ukraine battle map update. I hope all of you are doing fantastic today. Remember, if you guys are new here, please click that subscribe button and welcome in if you're new. If you are returning, guys, thank you for coming back. You are the best. You are the cream of the crop of my audience, and I appreciate you so much. If you could click that like and leave a comment, that helps me greatly. Without further ado, let's get over to the map. We have so much to talk about today, so many updates. If you look over here in the little legend, you can see just how many.
And as you can see, it is called Calibrated. It's on YouTube, and I've been looking at. I look at all the maps and everything else. He is the most accurate I have found over the 3-year period. That guy is the most accurate there is out there. So if I were you, make a note of his channel because it is worth following, just to let you know. Now we have to sort of talk about some more nonsense that has gone on. Mark Rutte has been mocking, of course, not only, shall we say, Vladimir Putin, but many others, saying that, of course, we have to let everybody know that these people are not going to be part and parcel of any problem of anything going forward, and that, of course, we have the upper hand when it comes to Ukraine. And, of course, anybody believing that, I've got a bridge to sell you on that one. We have a couple of other stories that we need to talk to you about as well. We're going to show you that video, as I say, in the second half, but very, very stupidly. Let's have a little look at this. This is Hegseth arriving at NATO. Now, he is solely there to drum up money for the military-industrial complex. That's it, nothing more. And anybody who thinks that's something different, think again. Now, very simply, let's get on to this, because this is quite crazy. If you want to see how bad things are getting, we need to have a look at what's happening in the UK. So let's get into what is happening in the UK. This is what they believe is going to happen in the UK. As we can see, as of the 18th of September, 10th to the 18th of September, they took a massive group of people, and they believe that reform, should there be literally a, should we say, an election tomorrow, that reform would have 445 seats, that Labour would have 73, the Lib Dems 42, and then, of course, you've got the lesser parties as well in there. The Conservatives would be in real trouble, as would the Greens. There is a major problem that we have, and it is a major problem as far as we're concerned here. That would give reform a massive majority. Now, could they actually keep that? And of course, as you say, Mad Ed Miliband could well be history. And of course, there's lots and lots of people that think that reform. Now, Nigel Farage, will he do the right thing? Will he? There are many people that say, of course, he is owned by Israel. There are many people that say he is owned by, that he's a globalist, that he's owned by bankers. Is he the best of a bad bunch? Is he just controlled opposition? Should we have independent MPs? I'm one of those who thinks we should have independent MPs. There are many question marks still over Nigel Farage, and of course we've asked Nigel Farage to come on the show. So far he's declined, and of course there are many questions that he doesn't want to talk about. We have to talk about. He has, of course, got rid of anybody that he considers far right, which would be people like Tommy Robinson or Rupert Lowe, which I'm not saying they are, I'm saying that's what he considers as far right, to try and make sure that, of course, they get in. Will he cure, for instance, one of the biggest problems we have at the moment? The New York Times is even reporting that the UK is literally the world centre of mobile phone theft. London, it has more phones stolen in London than 6 times more than any other capital city in the world. And of course, as the New York Times says, London became a global hub for phone theft. Now we know why. There are gangs operating, and these gangs are well known to the police, would you believe? And of course, we've got lots and lots of stuff to come on that. But these gangs are well known to the police, and they have come from places like Bulgaria, Lithuania, Romania, and various African countries. And of course, people are looking at that and going, why haven't they done anything about it? And just one more thing, while we're on the subject of Russia and anything to do with Russia, just before we get into the second hour, Peter Slato, I hope I've said that right, the Hungarian foreign minister, I should say, has turned around and said, don't touch anything that isn't yours. That's Hungary's position. And Hungary are still against the use of the Russian assets. I think you might be a bit late on that one, Pete. I think you might find that they froze it, pinched it, and spent most of it. And of course, they are going to need the Russian assets, because without them, of course, they've got a major issue. And the major issue, of course, is the fact that these people don't have any money to fight this war. That's why they've got to nick it out of your pension pots. And that is something that we're all, I think, in agreement that we don't want to see happen. It's going to be absolutely ludicrous. That is the end of the first half of the show. We are now going to play you out with, we're going to, first of all, give you this advert, and then we're going to play the end of the show. We'll play the end of the show first, sorry. Then we've got some real stuff to get into, and we will have Paul Brooker with us. But for those of you who are watching on X, please come and see us over at warrenthornton.com.